Imagine discovering a secret retirement planning framework that could potentially save you or your loved ones maybe $350,000 in taxes over your lifetime. A strategy so counterintuitive, it turns traditional retirement planning on its head, focusing not just on growing your net worth, but strategically decreasing it. So in this video, we're going to look at the hidden advantages of an aggressive RRSP drawdown strategy that could protect your estate from a staggering $700,000 tax hit. And to help illustrate, I'll walk through a real client scenario we just worked on to see if this might be something that could improve your situation. Hey everyone, I'm Steve Willems. I'm a wealth advisor here with the Willems Wealth Planning Group out in BC. We started this channel to give you the tools and the insights that you need for a successful retirement, from arranging your investments and your income streams and ideally paying less tax along the way. Now let's dive into this case to show you why on earth we would recommend our client pay more tax in the first few years of their retirement. Now this data comes from an actual client scenario, but for the purposes of our case, let's just say we're working with Ray and Deb Barone. Now Ray and Deb, they're both 65. They just recently retired. Ray, of course, we all remember, he worked for the local newspaper as a sports columnist, and Deb held a few odd jobs over the years. Now, together, they own their home. They actually moved to BC, worth about $1.3 million. They've saved diligently. They've got RRSPs worth $1.2 million combined between the two of them, and they have $200,000 in an open account that holds some bank stocks that have grown over the years. They also have about $100,000 in cash. So if we add this all up, $1.5 million of kind of savings that they're going into retirement with. They don't have a TFSA for whatever reason, and they've already started taking CPP and OAS, so we didn't do anything in terms of planning around when they should be taking those income sources. Now, Ray and Deb, they wanted to live on about $75,000 per year of after-tax spending money. And they figured that their income was going to be primarily coming from their CPP, their OAS, and the rest was going to be coming from the RRSPs. They had planned a couple car purchases over the years as well, one in 2028, another in 2033, and they had planned to downsize their home in 2040. Now, the one special note here that was kind of unique to their situation is that Ray's health isn't that great. He's had a few heart scares over the years, and it runs in the family, as they say, so he asked that we incorporate a shorter life expectancy for him of 75 years old. Deb has longevity on her side, so we agreed to run things out on her side till she was going to be turning 95, which statistically, she's got a 25% of seeing that age. That was their starting point. So then what we did is we modeled this out based on what they thought they were going to do. And when we did this, it showed that their net worth would continue to climb until about 2032, just taking what they needed to live on from their RRSPs, and then starting to drop in about 8 years when they'd have to start taking much larger draws out of their RRSP accounts in excess of what they would actually need to live on. So here's how it actually looks for them, continuing to grow till about 2032, then stepping down as the RRSP draws increase pretty dramatically, actually, as they're funding vehicle purchases from the RRSP accounts specifically. And then here is their new plan, where their net worth isn't actually expected to grow as much. And the counterintuitive part, that's actually by design, and it's way better that way. Now here's why. On an annual basis, initially using their no plan approach, they would only pull what they needed to out of their RRSPs or their RRSP accounts until the time when their minimum required withdrawal forces more to be paid out than is actually needed to fund their lifestyle. In this case, this is happening at their age 71. Now at that point, their annual tax bills get bigger and bigger and bigger. This is especially problematic because if he does in fact pass earlier at age 75, that also means that from that point forward, there is only one taxpayer, Deb, who qualifies for graduated tax rates, not two. And this is actually a massive change for their tax situation. You can see here how the line steps up significantly when Ray passes at age 75. The other occasional spikes represent big tax bill years when Deb needs to draw even more out of her RRSPs to update the vehicles along the way, which is what she thought she was going to have to do. Now here's how their tax plan changed after we implemented their new retirement income stream. In our planning, we had set the annual draws higher than was needed right away to start their retirement, but we maintained them over time, even after Ray passes. So as a result, their annual tax bill actually declines over time. But the total tax paid between these two scenarios, it's actually very, very similar. On this next graph, here we're showing a little bit differently. Here we're showing the aggregate amount of annual tax paid, the total amount of annual personal income tax between the two of them under the no plan option. And then here, we're doing the same thing with the green plan, with the new plan. Now in the previous plan, or the no plan, you see that it's much lower early on, but eventually the total tax paid adds up and actually surpasses the new plan here with the red line. Now, is that a good thing? It means she paid more tax along the way than had we not done anything. So why are we even talking about this? Well, here's where the fun begins. Because of the majority of their wealth being in their RRSPs and eventually in their RIF accounts, should they both pass before their life expectancies, which Ray seems pretty certain of, their final tax would show a massive tax bill. And their estate's going to have to deal with that. More than $700,000 is that tax bill estimate. And that money is going to get swept off to the CRA before the kids, causes, or family members ever see a dollar. Now, by rearranging their retirement income streams instead, we can have the Barones aggressively drawing down on those RIF balances, and the estate tax bill is reduced over time, such that it's almost completely eliminated by the time she turns 95. Now, this strategy as a whole is something called a RRSP meltdown strategy, or sometimes a RIF meltdown strategy. And when it's modeled out and executed, it can save families massive dollars. This last picture shows the total of the annual tax bills to that date. So adding every single year's tax bill on top of each other, plus, should they pass, the addition of their estate tax bill that would be incurred at that time. So the blue bar, the no plan line, it's gradually increasing over time and only decreases at the very end, at Deb's age 92. The green line is the new tax and retirement income plan, which has the total annual and estate tax estimates gradually shrinking down. The difference between those two lines, between the blue line and the green line, is the yellow line, maybe the delta, which shows the overall after-tax improvement in their situation. Now, by age 75, only 10 years from now, this single change is showing a total improvement of over $250,000. And by age 85, it's over $350,000. Simple tweaks, but massive results. Now, it's important to note that these were Ray and Deb's results. Now, every situation is going to be different. Sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes it's a little bit less, sometimes it doesn't even exist at all. If you haven't yet run these numbers and you're approaching retirement, it's something you absolutely have to do. We do this kind of work all the time, so if you'd like a hand running the numbers for yourself, I'll put a link in the description below for a few ways you could get some of your questions answered. I can tell you one thing. When we were sitting down with these clients last week, they certainly didn't think they had a $350,000 planning opportunity that was being missed. And that if Deb happens to not win that longevity lottery, that she passes after Ray, that the CRA may bill her estate a whopping $700,000, that was all news to them. Frankly, for them it was a bit shocking. And while we can't change the Tax Act or simply say no to paying tax at all, we can learn how to play the game a little bit better and how to reduce the amount of tax that you pay along the way. Okay, that's all for now. If this was helpful for you, hit that like button, consider subscribing. Otherwise, I'll see you next week.